Hello there. What is going on, everyone? Anakin Skywalker just may be coming to Star Wars Legion and might have been spoiled. What's going on, everybody? We're going to talk about Anakin Skywalker and Star Wars Legion today because there is some images floating around that hint at yet more leaks from Europe, and it just seems like everything is crazy right now, and just nothing is getting revealed or spoiled properly. If you are new here to the channel, there's still time left to enter to win the $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. All you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. I'm actually going to be announcing that in a couple of days, so stay tuned for that. Now, with all of that being said, we are going to start talking about Anakin here because this is pretty exciting. So we got this image that's been floating around for a little bit from boardgame.co.uk, and you may have seen this on Facebook. You may have seen this on the Legion Discord. It's certainly been floating around for a little while now, and there were rumors already that Anakin and Maul were coming, that Anakin would be commander, that Maul would be operative. And this important, this reportedly is coming from like distributors to retailers. There's a lot of back channel communications there that not all of us aren't necessarily privy to, but occasionally that sort of stuff gets leaked. And considering the delays that we've had in the normal production schedule already, it certainly stands to reason that a lot of people may be out of sync, and things that would have been announced by now if we didn't have multiple months of everything shutting down would have been announced by now, and things would be in production, and a lot of stuff we'd already have in hand. And it's the whole domino effect of everything kind of getting shifted, whereas in some channels it seems some things may not have been shifted. So going up apparently for potential pre-order here, or maybe accidentally, is the Star Wars Legion Anakin Skywalker Commander expansion. And this is interesting. Now, there's really nothing more than just this, other than also rumors that Maul was coming. But the fact that Maul wasn't also leaked at the same time makes me wonder if those are, completely true or not, and if Maul would actually be an operative like the leaks had said or not. Until I see something a little more substantial, I'm going to kind of suspend my disbelief for Maul right now. And well, I think that's not really the right phrase, but I'm gonna table the Maul discussion right now. We're gonna focus on Anakin Skywalker, although I'm crazy about Maul, but I want to dedicate more time to that in the future once it's a little bit more substantiated. So let's talk about Anakin right now, because there's if you listen to Double Critical podcast, by the way, we've talked about Anakin before, and I'm really hoping, I had said a couple of times, I'm hoped to see Anakin in his episode 2 kind of, like they always pick a movie or something, or a specific image to kind of model a sculpt or pose after, and I really wanted to see Anakin in episode 2 form. Now, basically, that means a couple of things. For one, that gives us time to grow with Anakin. It kind of eliminates some of the early maybe missteps of in the earlier days of Legion, when they put the Emperor out a little bit too early. I think like somebody who like him, who's kind of like an end game character, should probably have been maybe pushed back a little bit. I think he kind of came out a little bit too early, and so I feel like Anakin, at least as he is in episode 3, is incredibly powerful. He becomes Darth Vader and then does all this crazy, spoiler warning, right? But yeah, and I feel like that's a really powerful version of Anakin, and he could rival a lot of other people potentially on the Jedi Council. Maybe. And that's certainly an interesting subject of debate, but that was kind of the point, is he's the chosen one, and he's supposed to be really strong and everything. So I feel like going with a younger version, like a Padawan version of Anakin, is probably a better idea, because it gives you the option to do an eventual follow-up to Anakin. It still gets Anakin in the game, but it gives you an option to come up with a better one later on. So I thought that would be cool, because the alternative is potentially that you do episode 3 and like this super powerful, Anakin. And then, well, what are you going to do? You can't go back and do like Padawan Anakin after that. Nobody's going to want a weaker version, or maybe they would. I'm not sure. So it's really that's kind of my step. So I think there's a couple of options. Now, I think the most likely version is that we're going to end up getting Clone Wars Anakin. And what this is going to do is, I think you're going to end up getting Clone Wars Anakin a little bit more in sync with the Clone Wars and kind of a lot of the other stuff we're getting. A lot of this is a little bit more in sync with the cartoon and a little bit more in sync with the version of Obi-Wan that we have. This certainly matches up to that. And so, and here I'm showing two versions. That one is from the animated series, and one is from Battlefront. And so there's a lot of different ways that they could work on him. And so this is kind of help you envision what we might see. This seems reasonable because it's kind of like an in-between. It's in between 2 and 3, and it allows for a lot of flexibility. They could lean them a little bit more on the weaker side, potentially leaving a little bit room for a full-blown Episode 3 Anakin eventually. And it really... And it kind of begs the question, do you want him to be able to use the dark side? And that's really interesting because there are dark side force upgrades. And the Republic is not a dark side faction. So nobody in the Republic can equip dark side upgrades. It would be pretty cool if Anakin potentially could, but... I think if you're going to have a version of Anakin that can use dark side upgrades, because we get little hints of the flavor and directions they could go from games like Star Wars Destiny, who've made multiple versions of just about every character. And there's good versions of Anakin, and then there's bad versions of Anakin, as you get closer and closer to the climax of Episode 3. And so I think you can get a conflicted apprentice or a tormented soul kind of version of Anakin that is about at the peak of Episode 3, but I don't want that to be this version. I think this version of Anakin potentially could be an operative. He potentially could because, at this late in the game, he's now on the council. He's now sent to spy on the chancellor, and all this other stuff. Well, maybe at this point he's not leading troops anymore, Whereas if you go back to this version, well, here he was definitely leading troops. So this could absolutely be your commander. But I want to take it another step forward. What if they did decide and go ahead and do an Episode 2 Anakin? This may be possibly the least popular version or the least desired version, and I understand that. But if you're going to make all three... And that's a big if, because I don't know if you will. You might just... Because I could imagine Anakin being a character that eventually has two versions of him. He's certainly popular enough. Obi-Wan could have multiple versions. If Luke and Vader have it... well, I guess technically, he already has two versions, right? But yeah, my point is... He could potentially be a commander, too. It's possible. He was young here, so you might think operative, but... You could also have rookie commander, because technically he did kind of instruct troops a little bit in Episode 2, at the very end, go back for... He failed. He's go back for Padme, and and Obi-Wan's no, don't tell them what to do. You do your job. So there was a little bit of that. So I think there's a little bit of and this... And how much time really is in between the end of Episode 2 and the beginning of the Clone Wars? Not a whole lot. Enough for him to grow his hair out a little bit and to get a different piece of armor. Kind of hang up the leather. I'll put the leather back on when it's time for the next movie. Right. But, I feel like if they were going to ever do this model, the first one is the one to do it with. That's what I think. And then, I don't know how much difference you really do if you're doing this version. You could potentially say that he's still got both of his hands, so he's no part of him is machine at this point. So that could influence his force ability, and then potentially, maybe he has more force slots, but maybe he's only master of the Force 1, whereas more powerful versions of Anakin maybe lose a force slot because he did lose a hand, so he loses some of his connection with the Force, but he gets master of the Force 2 at some point, maybe. So he's still strong, to emphasize this, or maybe not. Maybe he keeps Master of the Force 1, but just gains more raw power. Maybe he gains Surge to crit and Surge to block, and maybe you make him really powerful when you make the older Anakin. I think there's a lot of ways to go, but I would love to see this version at some point. I'm just hoping it's not right now, because to me, this version, that Episode 3 version of Anakin, is probably the most powerful we'd ever see him, because... Generally, once he became Darth Vader, especially if you read a lot of Legends stuff and a lot of other stuff, his power level dropped, his potential dropped tremendously because of him losing so much of his physical body. And potentially losing a lot of Force capability. It's argued that that's why he never really embraced Force lightning, because it would mess with his, he didn't have the physical limbs, or because it would potentially mess with his robotics and all of that. And I believe there was actually an instance in one of the new comics where he does use Force lightning really quickly, but the point is, Vader doesn't use Force lightning, right? He just doesn't. If there's one instance of him doing it to counter it, I don't care. That's the mantra. It's Vader is more about the saber and choking, and Palpa's more about the lightning, and Dooku is more about the lightning. But that's not Vader's thing. So, but had he stayed human, he probably could have. So I don't know. I want to see this version. I'm hoping it's not right now. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think it's going to be episode 2? Do you think it's going to be Clone Wars, or do you think it's going to be episode 3 that we get for Anakin? I with my gut, I feel like they're probably not going to do episode 2. Like, I'm feeling it's going to be the Clone Wars version with the armor and the Republic, and then maybe leaving room for either a follow-up Anakin that's full-blown episode 3, or alternate art sculpt. That's episode 3. Granted, alternate art sculpt could also be Anakin from episode 2 with 2 sabers, because he picked up Obi-Wan's saber, and that could be a thing about episode 2 Anakin. Maybe he's impulsive, so he can get a lot of power, but he hurts himself by doing it. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot of different ways you can look at it. But I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you today. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe. Click that bell for alerts. Check me out on social media. Big thanks to the patrons. Check out Patreon as well. I really thank the patrons so much. You guys are absolutely amazing, and I could not do with this without you. Also, check out all the merch, the new shirts, new gator necks, all of that new stuff we've got. All right, I want to thank you all so much, and as always, have a great day.